My 4-year-old son was so proud to count to 5. When I asked him to count backward, he started walking backward while counting to 5. Way too easy, he said. Reddit, in what memorable ways have your kids answered you literally? I put on the VHS of Neverending Story for my son to watch when he was about 3. He asked what the name of the movie was. I told him. Then he said, "Do we have time for that?" Ain't nobody got time for that. My family took my sister to one of the art gallery stores in Sausalito, California, and one of the signs was, "Touch with your eyes only." She nearly poked her eye on her $80,000 Dr. Seuss painting. I feel Seuss would have found that hilarious and written it into a book. My dad. Okay, the first person to see a deer gets $1. My 6-year nephew. There's one. Dad, I don't see one. Don't lie. Do you remember the story of the boy who cried wolf? Nephew. Incredulous. Grandpa. A deer is not going to eat me. 2 little ones tracing each other's body outlines on the sidewalk with chalk. I marveled at their work, then suggested they color in their faces. I watched my son coloring in his face, and then noticed that his friend had colored her actual face completely blue. Following in Tobias's footsteps. I took my 3-year-old son to see Santa. After he asked for a Buzz Lightyear toy, Santa offered him a sticker. My son said no thank you, just Buzz Lightyear. At least he was polite about it. Not my kid, but when I worked in a restaurant I witnessed something awesome. A 6-year-old was at a table of about 8 people. The kid was holding a butter knife and fork in each hand, rhythmically pounding on the table holding them upright, chanting food, 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 food very methodically and slowly. Everyone at the table were too busy talking amongst themselves to notice. Suddenly the father realized what the son was doing and looked down at him and sternly cautioned, "Manners, Billy, manners." The kid paused momentarily and then proceeded with the chanting and rhythmic pounding, only this time with manners, 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 manners. Quite the little smartass he was. When my sisters were about 3, my mom was trying to get them to put on their shoes. She said to them, "Pull out your tongues," meaning the tongues of the shoe. They both looked at her and stuck their tongues out of their mouths and pulled on them. At least they're obedient. Most mothers would kill for that sort of obedience from their kids. Just look at Casey Anthony. A doctor assessing my then 6-year-old son asked him could he write the numbers 1 up to 10. He wrote the number 1, drew an arrow upwards, and wrote the number 10 above it. The doctor's response: "He'll go far." Mob lawyer. "Do you need to go before we leave?" "No." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Alright, fine. But don't be telling me you need to go when we get on the road." An hour later. "What the? Geez, you did. Why didn't you tell me you had to go?" "You told me not to tell you." True story. I think I'm the idiot in retrospect. When my daughter was a baby, I would read her the Shakespeare Treasury instead of baby books. When she was about 3, 1/2, we stood behind a man in line at the supermarket. He was nervously looking back and nibbling on his fingernails. My daughter looks up in disgust and asks him, "Do you bite your thumb at me, sir?" Any English teachers in earshot would have fainted. Taking my 2-year-old son to a public bathroom. As I am prepping the seat, he is doing a pee-pee dance. Me. "Do you have pee really bad, son?" "No." Pause. "Daddy, I pee really good." Little sister had a problem with R when she was really little. Mom was trying to teach her the correct way to say ribbit. Sister, wibbit. Mom, can you say wibbit with an R? Sister, wibbit with an R. Gotta love little kids. When I was around 3, I liked to listen to cassette tapes of children's songs in the car. I heard the word squall somewhere in the lyrics. The squalling cat and the squeaking mouse, I'd been told, and so I asked my mom what's squall. She was focusing primarily on driving at the time, so she answered me like she would have answered an adult. "Could you use it in a sentence?" I thought about it for a moment and came up with a sentence. "Mommy, what does squall mean?" In elementary school, when would have to make up sentences with spelling words, I would say, for example, "I don't know what squall means." If I had kids, I would tell a story about them. For now, The best literal interpretation story I can remember. Eating ice cream. Someone I know asked his son, "Can I have a lick?" to the son proceeded to lick his dad's face. That's hilarious. Thanks for making me laugh. My 3-year-old nephew was trying to put a cartridge into a handheld video game system, but he had the cartridge upside down. I told him it was upside down, and he looked at me like I was speaking Chinese. I pointed to the cartridge and said try turning it around while motioning in a circle. He stood up and started spinning his body in a circle while still attempting to shove the cartridge in. That's so cute. My friend did the same thing the other day. We posed for a picture and the photographer asked if we could turn around. Me going to stand on the right side, she on the left. She started making pirouettes. Not cute but hilarious, as she is 25 and was serious. In a hurry, I told my 2-yo come on, let's roll bud. Walking towards the door, looked back to see him on the floor rolling around. We were late, but it was worth it. Just happened this week. Listening to music in the car and a song with a cuss word came on. I reminded the kids never to say any of those words even if they hear other people use them. Son. 7. Can I say damn? Me. Only when used as a noun. Like the beaver built a dam. You can't say that dang dog. Daughter. 5. Can I say that crap dog? My daughter was 4 when she fell off her bed. I came running in and asked, "Are you okay? What did you hit?" She said, "I'm okay daddy, I hit the floor." My friend's son actually apologizes to the floor when he falls. When I was 2 my nan got really ill and I went with my family to visit her in hospital. My brother whispered to me, "Tell nanny you love her." So I climbed on the bed and said, "You love her. Tell nan, I love you, Lucy loves you." I was talking about one of my friends in front of my little brother. For whatever reason it came up in the conversation that she was black. My brother looks up, confused, and says so and so isn't black, she's brown. That reminds me of when I heard that Jesus Loves the Little Children song in preschool. When they got to the red, brown, yellow, black or white, they are precious in his sight part, I was really confused. I didn't know that Asian people were sometimes referred to as yellow, so I thought they meant people like the Simpsons. I took the boys I used to nanny for to get their booster shots. I made sure to discuss this fact before we left so there were no surprises at the doctor's office. Everything was going really well until I told Denny, "Okay buddy, you're going to get a shot, but you'll be brave." And his eyes got big and welled with tears and he said, but if I get shot I'll die." He thought I was taking him to the doctor to be executed, but was trying to be brave anyways. I made sure to explain what was really happening. Crisis averted and my heart exploded with love. That is heart-achingly adorable. I was washing my car and my 3-year-old cousin was helping. He noticed when he put the sponge in the bucket, the water would overflow. When he asked me why, I told him it was called displacement. I explained how when you push the sponge in, some of the water has to move out of the way. Later at McDonald's he was pushing the ice down in his drink with a straw. As the drink rose a bit in the cup he said, "Hey look, dead policeman." Similar story, and it's a miracle I didn't cause a small riot with this one. There was an orange march going past when I was 6. This is a long complicated one to explain if you're not familiar. It is a Protestant movement throughout the UK. Wikipedia it. And I said loudly, "Oh look daddy, it's the prostitutes." My dad almost choked to death on the sandwich he was eating at the time. I have a 3-year-old niece who when asked to shout louder she always shouts the word louder. Also, she thinks that the proper way to say aunt is your aunt. Why? Well because when we tell her hug your aunt, kiss your aunt, call your aunt, so when we ask her things like who gave you that candy she'll answer your Aunt Belle. Teaching my oldest son more obscure body parts. Ajax, where is your heel? That's right, it's the back of your foot. Ajax, where are your forearms? I don't have forearms. Then what are these? I pointed to his forearms. These are my 2 arms. Achilles, where's your heel? I was playing with my 2-year-old and held out my hand and asked her if she knew how to shake hands, at which point she looked at me, said of course, and proceeded to wave both of her hands in the air shaking them. I was babysitting my 2 young cousins and they were about to race each other. I was the referee, so I announced, let's have a fair race. Before we start, shake hands, and they both did the best and planned synchronized jazz hands I've ever seen. One afternoon after daycare, my mom asked my little brother if he behaved that day. He said, well, I was a little have but not much have. That one goes in the books. When I was a kid, 4 or 5 years old, my uncle said something about ice cream sandwiches. I got mad and called him a liar because I thought he was talking about a scoop of ice cream between 2 pieces of bread. My cousin heard about ice cream sandwiches when we were on holiday in Portugal. My mum later found us by the pool with Neapolitan ice cream wrapped in actual slices of bread. I distinctly remember them being delicious. My daughter is 2.5. About a week ago she was acting up and I said to her, Annie, you are naughty. She looked me dead in the eye and responded, I'm not naughty, I'm Annie. All the adults burst out laughing. Similarly, when my niece was about the same age, she knocked her head on something pretty hard. I said to her, Dad, she'll probably have a black eye. Without missing a beat she said, I have blue eyes, like I was the biggest idiot in the world. I've yet to have kids, but according to my parents I learned to use the TV remote in a weird way. When 5-year-old me couldn't get it to work, my parents told me I had to point at the TV. I then promptly pointed my finger at the TV while pressing the remote. This also caused me to be pointing the remote the right way, and it worked. I then did that same thing for over a year until they told me I didn't have to literally point. My cousin was about 3, and we were playing catch. She asked how to catch, and I told her to keep her eye on the ball. She smiles, then puts the ball on her eye. I almost cried, it was so adorable. I don't think she has much of a future in sports. My husband was sharing a bag of Doritos with our twins when they were about 4. When they were gone, he showed them the bag and said, all gone, and put it aside. One boy was content with this, the other was not, so he kept asking for more. Dad said there were no more. A few minutes later, he'd ask again, and be told there were no more chips. Repeat ad nauseum until my husband finally said, what part about there not being any more chips do you not get? Our son sighed and said, the chips part, Daddy. My nephew really enjoyed reading. He came up to me and asked if he could read the book to me. I of course played along and had him read the book. After he was done I went back to whatever I was doing and he started reading the book out loud again. I asked, hey Will, could you please read the book to yourself? He said sure thingy and then walked in the room next over and started to read it aloud again. I went over to him and said, Will, I really need you to read the book to yourself. He looked at me angrily and said, what do you think I'm doing? Then I realized he didn't understand the concept of an inner monologue while reading, so he was reading it aloud to himself. One year, for Christmas, my mom got my sister a diary, as she'd been pretty vocal about how all of her friends had one, and how much she wanted one. To my mom's dismay, however, she seemed to never use it, and even asked my mom to keep it safe when she didn't need it. My mom, being a good parent, never opened it to read what she had written inside. One day, my sister got a particularly nasty bout of food poisoning, and kept asking my mom for her diary at odd times throughout the sickness. Finally, my mom asked her how she decided when she should write in her diary, when I have diarrhea, of course. TLDR. My sister thought that diaries were for logging, no pun intended, bouts of diarrhea. This needs more votes. It's gold. My parents asked me to count higher. I climbed on the couch and put my hands as high as possible and just counted to 10 again. I was higher up. Technically I was correct. Technically correct, the best kind of Reddit meme number 36 not found. When I was like 3 years old, my aunt called our house one day. I answered the phone bawling my eyes out. She freaked out and asked what was wrong. My response? My mommy said my butt is grass. Apparently she was laughing so hard she ended up just having to call my mom back. When my daughter was 4 she was climbing on me and being annoying. I said, get off of me. She replied with a loud fart, then said, that's no fart. Absolute genius. A kid at the childcare center I work at was helping me put the nap cots away. He said it was heavy and I replied with, don't worry, it's a piece of cake. He looks down at it and goes, "No, it's a cot." Then he gave me a look like I was an idiot. I once asked my young cousin if he would answer the door. He replied, "What did it ask?" He's always been a cheeky little C. Will you open me and talk to whoever stands on the other side? Smartus. My sister was obsessed with Britney Spears when she was 14. One time she knelt down to me, 6, and sang "Hit Me Baby One More Time." I punched her in the face, sent her head flying against the corner of a table, and she had to get stitches. That one comes out at the dinner table every Thanksgiving. I somehow read your age numbers backwards the first time and was slightly horrified, but now upon rereading I totally get it. She was asking for it, literally. When I was a little kid, my family was at a restaurant and I couldn't remember what hush puppies were called, so I asked if I could have quiet dogs for dinner. On a similar note, we have a chain of fast food burger joints called Whataburger, pronounced Whataburger. I always thought it was Whataburger. One day I wanted to go but couldn't remember the name. My parents were confused when I said I wanted to go to Wet Buns for dinner. The 3-year-old boy I was babysitting was having trouble pooping. When his older sister passed by the bathroom, she said something along the lines of, "It's like Monster Ted in there." The boy started crying and he refused to poop because he was scared of the monster. For the next year, his family couldn't figure out why he was so scared to poop. When I was a kid, my grandmother would always tell me to get out of her way by saying "Get out of here" like a big assed bird. Apparently it was something her father said to her as a kid. So one day she got really upset and told me that. So I squat down, flapped my arms like wings, and quacked while walking out of the room. She cried from laughing so hard and was upset she never thought to do that with her dad. Not exactly sure if this qualifies. One of the kids at this camp I used to work at liked to tell secrets. He would ask if he could tell you a secret, then cup his hands around your ears and say SPSPSPSPSPSPSPSPSPSS. Kids I used to volunteer with used to do this all the time. It was so fun to listen and pretend to be absolutely scandalized. Stomping over to timeout after getting in trouble. "Mom, do you have any ultimatums for me?" Me. "No, I don't have any olives or tomatoes for you." And slammed my door. She laughed really hard about that one. Give her the all tomato. When I was 4 or 5, my mother had a nasty habit of saying, "Someone should slap you," in an obviously joking manner. She's from the South. Well, both of my parents were military, and so were their friends. On this one eventful evening, my parents were playing a board game with said friends, and this one special forces looking dude did something in the game to set my mom back. True to herself, she said her favorite phrase, and I, being 5, thought she was serious. So I, with my large undropped balls of steel, walked square up to the guy and slapped him as hard as I could in the face. My dad had to pull me into the other room before the special forces guy could do anything. I'd hope a special forces dude could keep his crap together at a little slap in the kisser. I give my daughter warnings before we leave the playground. So one day I tell her, "In 10 minutes we're leaving." She looks at me and argues, "No, 4 more minutes." Okay. My 4-year-old does. It cracks me up. Yesterday she was trying to negotiate a trip to Disney World. I told her that we could go when she's 6. No, 7. Well, if you insist. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.